Psst. Hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
Good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the meeting of the Circuit 13 Juvenile Justice Advisory Board, and we will rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll skip the roll call of the board members and just go around the table and do introductions. I'm Rocky Brancato. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at the Public Defender's Office, and I'm the Chair of the Juvenile Justice Board. And we'll go to our right.
Good morning, Kelly Hammersley, Chief Probation Officer, Juvenile Justice.
Great morning, Antonio Bird, Chief Operating Officer of the Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative, your Continuum of Care Lead Agency.
Rob Parkinson, Hillsborough County Criminal Justice and Vice Chair.
Chrissy Dorian, Hillsborough County Public Schools, Juvenile Justice Transition Department.
Matthew Comet, Captain, Tampa Police Department.
Travis Coy, Juvenile Division Chief, Office of the State Attorney.
Hey, Pam Jeffrey, Success for Kids and Families.
Eileen Shaw, Clerk of the Circuit Court.
Good morning, Sarah Grimmick, Hillsborough County Fins.
Good morning, Kay Hunter, Fins, Children's Services.
Hillsborough County Commissioner Donna Cameron Cepeda. Thank you.
Good morning, Heather Cazzola, Prevention and Diversion Program Manager for Children's Services, Hillsborough County.
Good morning.
And just as a reminder, I was asked to make sure everyone mutes their microphone until you're called, just to eliminate the feedback. Thank you.
Judy Royston, Juvenile Diversion Program.
Gina Justice, Court Administrator, 13th Circuit.
Not coming up?
Here.
Yeah, probably. All right, Jeff Kane, Character GPS, DJJ Prevention.
Debbie Kane, Character GPS.
Okay.
Debbie Kane, Character GPS. Thank you. Pat McGee, Outreach and Engagement Specialist for DJJ, Office of Communications.
Good morning, Kim Williams, Chief Operating Officer with Children's Network of Hillsborough.
Hi, Beth Pasick, Community Development Administrator, DCF.
Hi, Conchita Canty-Jones, Career Source, Tampa Bay.
Good morning, everyone. Davia Larabor, Pay Center for Girls and Secretary for this board.
Okay, and we have a new member as well, and I'll have her state her name. She's going to be switching with now Captain Kamat, who had gotten promoted. Congratulations. But if you can announce your name, and we'll get you on our roster for future meetings.
Robin Polk, Tampa Police Department, and I'll be replacing the captain. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to review the July 2023 minutes? And if so, do we have a motion?
I have, and I move to approve.
Okay, seconded by
Beth Pasick, second.
Beth Pasick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they'll be accepted. And before we move to committee reports, we have Antonio Bird here. He's the Chief Operations Officer for Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative, and he's going to make a special announcement.
Awesome. Great morning, everybody. Thank you all for giving me a few seconds to come and hijack your meeting to make a huge community announcement. The information is still in the works. However, due to the short timing that it's going to take us to put this thing together, Rob felt it would be beneficial to the community to come and make an announcement. So I've been going throughout the community for the last 2 days. But the announcement I wanted to make is that we will receive a visit from HUD headquarters. That's the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on September 20th. As you can see, the reason why they let me hop on board. We have not gotten the logistics for the visit on September 20th in terms of time and location. We have not even received information as to why they are visiting us. However, after doing this, for a very long time, we believe that the only reason that HUD headquarters would be coming into our community is to be making a funding announcement. And we did get some hints that they're trying to do this across the country, so they'll be making a singular announcement across, in different communities across the country, which tells me it's related to funding. The only funding that they will be announcing is in relation to the Youth Homeless Demonstration Grant Program that we submitted last year, which is a really, really huge deal. It took us 5 times to get awarded. And even though it's called the Youth Homeless Demonstration Grant Program, it is not specifically and only for homeless youth. It's actually a youth grant for the community to put a robust youth system in place to ensure that every youth that is homeless and or at risk of becoming homeless can have access to all of the wraparound services that they need. So we talking everything from youth that are in the juvenile justice system, child welfare system. We're talking runaways, youth that have been kicked out, every possible subpopulation of youth that you can really think of. So, and the biggest thing I want to leave you with in terms of more information coming is that we will have to convene very, very large youth stakeholder sessions with youth involved. So the Continuum of Care does have a youth action board that's part of the Continuum of Care. We know that there's other youth groups. So the idea would be to bring all of those youth groups together. In essence, as a community, we follow their lead. They tell us what they want, their ideas, what services they need, and we write a plan. So we'll have roughly 6 months to put the plan together. We receive roughly $1 million to write the plan. And to give you some context in terms of funding over the next 3 years, they made the announcement last year in Orlando, and it was around 12-ish p.m., and Orlando received $8.4 million. So that can give you some context in terms of the value in terms of how large the grant can be. And it's a 3-year grant, and it's for doing everything from drop-in centers to shelters to housing, whatever the youth feel is needed in the community, they're going to provide the resources for us to put that together. So it does involve all of you also. We wanted to make sure that you were at least aware of what's potentially to come into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. That's some really excellent news for some very needed funding. And I kind of just took a point of personal privilege to kind of let him get up here now out of agenda. Does anyone have any questions for him? I think it's an important enough topic to put out there. Anyone have any questions?
Just one question. Antonio, my understanding, when you wrote that grant, and I think you were one of the principals on that, you talked about a transitional youth time frame. Was it the cutoff 25?
Yeah, so the age group is between 14 and 25 years old. So it expanded the 16 to 24 group that HUD traditionally serves in their programs because they want to be able to capture a bigger net.
So this will certainly be able to help us address our transitional youth target populations, especially our dual system kids that we've had some real challenges with in the last couple of years, correct?
Yes, the couch surfers, in essence, the doubled up as well, which we traditionally haven't been able to serve with HUD funds. So this gives us an opportunity to really cast a bigger net.
Great news, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it.
If you all have any other questions, my email address is really simple. It's BYRD, as in David, A as in Apple, birda@thhi.org. So it's birda@thhi.org.
And once you get the final information on what time they'll be here, and if you get any further details on the specifics, you could send it to us, and I'm sure our chair would be willing to send it out to the group.
I most certainly will. Thank you all so much for an opportunity. I'm going to leave you to your meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to our committee reports, our data-driven subcommittee report that's looking at civil citations. Ms.
So
Royston?
good morning, everyone. I just want to do a short recap of where we're at. This work group was formed to look at civil citation utilization. In Hillsborough County, our utilization was at 62%, with other counties around us had a 96% utilization rate, which was Pinellas. Polk was at 84%. And even though we were in the statewide average of where we should be, why were we missing 38% of the kids? So the work group has looked at utilization, we've looked at reasons for not giving a civil citation, we've looked at the different charges. And with civil citation, over the years, our stakeholders, judiciary and Leo, have expanded civil citation, and we've now been expanded to every misdemeanor charge with the exception of assault on a school board employee unless the victim agrees. So we were still missing kids. One of the reasons, and looking through everything, the department does a missed opportunities report that we get monthly. So a law enforcement officer, if they issue a civil citation, has to put the reason for not giving a civil citation right on the criminal report affidavit. So this report is generated by Department of Juvenile Justice. We get it monthly, and some of the reasons might have been youth not cooperative. Well, with our latest MOU, the youth doesn't have to admit guilt. It might have been youth offense is not eligible. And our previous MOU excluded racing. So now with the expansion, we're allowed to include that as one of the civil citation offenses. So there's different reasons why we've been missing, and that's what the group is looking at. But one of the things we were looking at is some of the charges, kids end up going to our juvenile assessment center. So once you go to the juvenile assessment center, even though you were eligible for civil citation, once you go through that door, you've now been arrested. You are no longer eligible. A lot of times, law enforcement goes out for a civil citation offense. It might be a battery, domestic violence. Our Children's Services is located in the north part of the county. If this offense occurred down in Waimama, the officer has to drive all the way to Lake Mag to drop the kid off to avoid the kid getting an arrest. So there could be other reasons where a parent wasn't available. The officers, has the youth with them. What do? You've got to bring them to the JAC. So we set up a call yesterday to see how's Pinellas County doing it. They have a 96% utilization rate. They have the same issues that we have. They're also using battery domestic violence charges. How are they getting around this? So we had a Zoom call, and everybody was on it. So we had Linda Cook, which is the intervention specialist for the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. She went over what they do at the Pinellas JAC. And it's interesting, a kid comes to their JAC, the CRA, criminal report affidavit, is sent ahead of time, so they know the youth is coming. So he's coming in on a misdemeanor offense. They have their live scan machine, which is once a youth arrives, you have to fingerprint him and book him. Once you enter a youth's name into that live scan machine and you send the charges in, he has a record. It's going to show up on his delinquency phase sheet. They have a way of over there that they send the fingerprints without the charge. So then Linda comes in the next day. She looks through the stack of youth that were eligible for diversion. She's able to pull out all the civil citation youth and hold the charges while their fingerprints went to FDLE, but not the charge with it. So we are going to look further into it. I think the work group has another meeting to come up with recommendations of what we have discovered during looking at everything. And then we should be able to make final recommendations shortly. Any questions? Okay.
So to kind of just add a little to that, Pinellas County has 14 different law enforcement agencies that they're dealing with, and they're still able to do this. We got creative here, and our discussions have been centered around what we called a friendly door, which is it's a fiction, but in other words, a part of the jack where when you take the kid there, they're not arrested. And really what we learned from this is, from Pinellas, is that we've really overcomplicated it. Because those kids, when they get arrested and taken to the jack, and I use the word arrest, also very loosely, but they're taken to the jack. They're the kids here that didn't get a civil citation for whatever, they're taken to the jack. They go in with all the other kids. It's this diversion process that's done right there at the jack, what Ms. Royston talked about with the fingerprints, and then the second part, which is the CRAs, Ms. Cook actually stamps on it that it's a diversion. And what she really pointed out to us is that the civil citation statute covers this, because it says civil citation, and then it says or other diversion. So we have a very sophisticated safety net here in Hillsborough County, and it starts with the state attorney's office. If someone's getting arrested, a child's getting arrested for a misdemeanor, and they go to the jack, our safety net is the state attorney's office gets those criminal report affidavits if they qualified for a civil citation but didn't get it, and they ensure that those children get diverted. They send it over to court administration, to the juvenile diversion, or they send it to arbitration, which I believe is Bays, and those children get diverted. The only difference is they have an arrest. They have an arrest. So what Pinellas has done is say, let's not overcomplicate this. Let's do this right there at the jack. Okay, we're gonna, and it's not only a very simple and elegant process. It may be not too simple for Ms. Cook, and we might have to, if we're able to get there, we might have to have some discussions with ACTS and the Sheriff's Office. But it's also very efficient. You don't have to have it going over to the State Attorney's Office and then to court admin. It's instantaneous. One other thing they do there, or two other things they do there, under the civil citation statute, you can have up to 3 opportunities. Now, we don't have 3 opportunities here. We only have 1. And eventually, maybe we'll talk about expanding that to 3. But the civil citation statute allows each circuit to determine how to operate it. So we don't have uniformity across the state. And we only allow 1. And I kind of analogize it to drug court. Initially, when we did drug court, our gut told us that if someone relapsed, well, we needed to, give them some sanctions. Well, we learned through science that addiction is, it's not you don't just put someone in drug court and it's done. There's gonna be relapse, so we built that relapse in there. And I think what science tells us is that the juvenile brain is developing, and that there may be need for second chances or even third chances. And we're not talking about that yet. Hopefully it's a discussion we can have, but this was probably, I thought, Ms. Royston, the most exciting meeting that I've attended all year, because it just realized, like, what are you guys doing? You're complicating things. It could be so much more simple, and I very much appreciate your hard work in leading this group and the work of all of our law enforcement partners in the State Attorney's Office that I think are also very excited about it. And I look forward to our next meeting where we can really significantly, hopefully, move the needle and get us in the same ballpark as our neighbors in Pinellas, in Polk, in Pasco, which, as we know, are certainly more conservative than we are here, generally, just painting a broad brush. And so if they can do it, We can do it in civil citations, I would say, is probably the darling of criminal justice reform, because what we've learned is that by doing this, the children, there's very low recidivism. And the bottom line is, we don't want to put them in a situation where they end up not being able to get a job. There was a lot of emphasis by Ms. Cook about they even allowed domestic violence there, even intimate partner violence, because the bottom line is, once that child gets a domestic violence arrest, guess what? There's no military for them. They cannot go into the military. And a lot of those children, that would be the best, most successful thing to make them very productive and to allow them to serve. And we just cut that off. So it's great to learn from our neighbors, and I very much appreciate the work. Does anyone have any other questions? Thank you. We'll move on to our Faith Community Network Subcommittee. Dr. Glenn Dames.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. We are moving forward. We've had a brief meeting a few weeks ago. The Faith Committee met, and we are putting together some proposals, or a proposal, that I'm going to submit to the group at our next meeting.
Okay. And we also had our commissioner there, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, and also discussed the possibility of some funding for the group, which I don't know that we've had in the past, but it might allow us, at least as a starting point, to figure out how we can posture this amazing network to help our children.
And I can't say enough about Commissioner Cepeda. I mean, it was just, what she has done, I think, is just absolutely valuable. And nothing compared to these days. Most people talk about it, but don't do anything to make it happen. She has fast-tracked it and really put a good effort in making sure our kids are productive and have a better chance. And so I can't say enough about that. It warms my heart and does, I think, our kids a great justice in that particular aspect. So thank you again, Commissioner.
Any questions for Dr. Dames? All right, we'll move on to our Julianne Holt Service Excellent Committee, Ms. Canty Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We met September the 1st, and our group is moving ahead. And there are a couple of things I would just like to bring to our committee as a point of reference. One of the things that we want to do this year, we're requesting that all the members please share the information. Our goal is really to increase the nominees that we're receiving. In addition to that, we are going to follow the same protocol that we did last year. And we also have new ideas that we would like to do for next year. One of the things is that we definitely want to have a stronger presence in the social media realm. And what that means is that we really would like to share our own personal social media platform, as well as increase that information within the public. One of the things that one of the members recommended is that we create in the future content, that way that it is the same across board. But other than that, we are excited about this process. Our next meeting that we're going to have is going to be October the 9th, face-to-face. Rob is going to be so nice to have coffee and breakfast for us. So that was the highlight of the meeting. Like, yes. I know, I was like, yes. So other than that, we'll be meeting on the 9th and be able to make a selection. But the bottom line, we really, really would like for everyone to please promote it. This is such a honor, and we want to make sure that we represent well in this particular area.
And Ms. Canty Jones, when is the deadline for submissions for the award?
Great
nominations?
question. I believe it's October the 6th, 5th. Great question, yes, October the 5th.
All right, so, start thinking now, if you haven't, and make some nominations, that person who's really going above and beyond.
And what I discovered is that the person, if they're working with the population of DJJ, doesn't necessarily have to be anyone that is working directly in the DJJ department. So anyone that you feel that works with the population, prevention and intervention, if I understand correctly.
Thank you. Mr. Parkinson?
Just a couple comments. In looking at the applicants that we've received so far, we noticed there's a number of organizations that haven't submitted anything. So I don't believe we've gotten anything from DJJ as an organization, and they've got lots of staff that have been doing wonderful things.
I have 2 nominations. I've just got a proof.
Please make the deadline. We also discussed staff at court administration that have been doing some incredible things, so consider nominating those folks. Bay Area Youth Services, we talked about that. We haven't gotten any applications from you guys, and again, there's several staff that have really stood out over the last couple of years. And then, of course, the faith-based community. Lots of folks that are here, that are active, that are engaged. Please get the word out. If you've got somebody who's doing wonderful things with youth in the community that are DJJ at risk or involved, please send in a nomination and let them get recognized. Thank you.
And just for correction, the deadline is October 6th, Friday, October 6th.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. By the way, he trained me and Rocky as well to be the chair, so.
Thank you.
Rocky, I just have a comment.
Yes, Ms. Gridley.
Something that we brought up during the meeting that I think is unique is that to think outside of the box. Some of our coworkers and community members working with prevention kids are at our Boys and Girls Clubs, our YMCAs, our youth leagues. If you see people in the community or know people and you're working with them, these are the type of people we want to highlight. They don't necessarily have to be represented at all of these meetings or in this room, but it's important to recognize that we have outstanding people in our community that are working with our kids that are at risk.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to member updates. Department of Juvenile Justice.
Okay, well, I'd like to start first with our census for our youth that are involved with Circuit 13. Currently, we have 278 youth that are on a form of probation supervision. We have 89 youth that are currently on our intensive supervision program. We have 28 youth that are currently on electronic monitoring. We have 46 youth that are currently on supervised release. And I don't see that detention is here today, but census is at 67 youth in secure detention. And total open youth, that's from intake all the way through conditional release, assigned to Circuit 13 is 1,550 children. I did want to mention that currently we have an intensive supervision program that's been in place since March. Effective August 28th, this program was revised. And what that means is that there has been a reduction in the duration of days, which previously was at 180 days that a youth would be on intensive supervision, and upon successful completion, they'd be released. That has been revised to now it's 120 days. With that being said, this also creates a reduction from each phase level. There are 4 phases throughout that 120 days. Each phase is a period of 30 days. So your first phase is at 30 days. When you're compliant, you move up to phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then we're successfully completing you from intensive supervision. The requirements are basically the same. However, there has been one modification that firearm offenses. This is for youth that are only on probation for firearm or for any type of firearm offense. Those youth meet the criteria for intensive supervision. They must be on probation for the firearm offense. And the other criteria continues to be the same, identified as a prolific juvenile offender, identified as a sexually violent predator, LEO documented gang member, and the DJJ community assessment tool of moderate, high, or high risk to reoffend for youth that are on supervision. We can place them on intensive supervision as a response to non-compliance. And this is regardless of any of the other criteria. So those are the components that we use to determine who we're going to place on intensive supervision. There are also changes from the prior program implementation to the level of contacts. They've changed a little bit to where it includes naturally follow-up with weekly, bi-weekly with the schools for attendance and behavior. Likewise, following up with service referrals that were made for the youth to ensure where they're at, if they're in compliance, or we need to refer them to another provider or service. So that's the information that I have right now, and this is posted on the DJ website that everybody has access to as well. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Kelly, I have a quick question. On the website, does it compare year to year with current kids we're serving versus last year? Is that something easily accessible? I know Rob's talked a lot about how we continue to have extended costs in detention, and when you said 67, it felt like it was a high number, but I'd like to kind of look at how that looks year over year.
Well, you know, I pulled it just through the what was available for the secure detention cost sharing data. I do have that, but I didn't see where it put down the number of youth, but, excuse me, let me go to the next page. I want to make sure I'm not omitting anything. No, I would have to drill down and look and see specifically. You're asking about the number of youth secure detention from year to year?
Correct, so we can compare month over month.
So I actually get that on an annual basis, so I can pay the bill. But I also cross-referenced that with the delinquency profile, which is publicly available online. Unfortunately, DJJ has not updated it yet with last year's data. And as soon as they do, as I often do, I will be bringing it back to this group just so they're aware of it. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hammersley. Prevention, Ms. McGee.
Good morning, everyone. A couple of months ago, we had a press release. I don't know if you probably remember. It was at USF, where we had a press release with the Secretary Hall in conjunction with the Department of Health, where we did what we called the Facts, Your Future. And basically what that was just an educational piece to kind of, you know, show individuals how to be able to work with kids and be able to also focus on alcohol, substance abuse that was going on into our communities, giving people tools to be able to kind of work with their children and being able to have those comfortable kind of conversations. Well, we are doing, from the Office of Communications, we have started to do an assembly in the schools. And so we will be starting statewide, starting next month, to go into the schools and actually do an assembly talking with the kids about substance abuse and about drugs that they may have at home that they may not be aware of the dangers of. We will be going into a lot of those schools, working with the Department of Health and also education. I'm super excited. The first one that I will be doing will be in Hardy County, but of course I do cover Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Polk counties as well. So therefore I will be in those counties also spreading the wealth and working with our children, giving them information. And as I find out more information about when I will be rolling it out in Hillsborough County, I will be reaching out to a lot of you for your help and support so that I can get into these schools so I can be able to give this information out to our kids. It is a credit that they can receive. I think it's about 5 or 6 credits. So it's something that I think is great that we are bringing it to the schools and that we're bringing it at a young age where we're looking at 6th and 8th graders. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that in addition to, which is only an announcement, we are getting ready for what we call our Restoring Hope Training Summit, which will be in October 31st through, I believe, November 2nd. So if you have not already registered, I hope that you will go on to our site and register because it's going to be an amazing conference just like it was last year. Is there any questions?
Ms. Jana Peebles did reach out, and so we're in the process of scheduling and picking the right school. So super excited about that.
Thank you.
I also wanted to add that a number of years back, the Board of County Commissioners funded an organization called NOPE, Narcotics Overdose Prevention Education, that already has established relationships with high schools and middle schools. And they're out there they give a great presentation on the dangers of specifically prescription drug use, but it's certainly expanded over the years. So I would suggest that you contact Cindy Grant with the Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance, who in addition to being over the Drug Alliance, is also one of the key members with Narcotics Overdose Prevention Education. And I think there's probably already some pathways that have been blazed to get into the schools. And Pat, I think you would really value those presentations. There's certainly some opportunity to partner there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGee, and if you need any help from the Public Defender's Office, let us know. You know, our attorneys who work in the recovery courts and that type of stuff, every time one of our clients pass away, it hits them hard. So if we can do anything to help your endeavor, please let us know. Anyone here from detention? Okay, civil citations, Ms. Royston.
Okay, for the month of August, there were 62 clients referred, 43 from the community, 22 from the schools, the dominant charge being petty theft, and followed by battery, was the second highest with 14 referrals. Of these clients, we had 37 females and 25 males. So, and then we compare it to last year, August of 2022, we had 41 clients referred, 33 in the community and 9 from the schools. Dominant charges in the community were battery, 11, petty theft, 10. 18 were females and 23 were male. And that's our update.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for Ms. Royston? Dr.
I do.
James?
Of that battery, what gender led in the battery in the 14?
Actually, I only have it, I can't break down, I have it,
Okay.
but I don't
No
have it on
problem.
the sheet with me now. We break it down by male and female, but it's not on the particular sheet that I have.
Okay.
But we did have an increase in girls last month. I think that's the first time we've had girls leading with civil citations, and that was 37 females and 25 males.
Thank you. And the reason why I asked is because I think that we focused on males for a long time, and rightfully so, especially, you know, in my community. But I think we also got to make sure that we're well-rounded, because I think males and females both need that intervention. As we can see from these numbers, with females being higher than males in this particular category, I think is something that we ought to definitely be looking at, because I don't think those numbers are going to go down if we don't create some type of intervention as we move forward. So, something to think about.
Thank you, Dr. Dames. Any other questions for Ms. Royston? CINSFINS, Ms. Grimmick.
Good morning again. First, I'm going to give you our current census. So currently in shelter, we have 1 court-ordered youth, 7 community youth, 2 domestic violence charged youth, and 1 youth that is on probation. So we have open beds if you need any of them. Last month, our shelter served kids for 151 days. 67 of those, 67 additional days were served for domestic violence youth. Our community counseling saw 21 new intakes. We served 403 intensive case management visits. And in shelter, kids that were on probation were 15 days last month. And that's all I have.
I have one question as it relates to the respite beds for domestic violence. Does CINSFINS Lake Mag, do they pick up from the JAC?
So typically, if a kid is still at the JAC, the youth's parent, if it's a civil citation, they're brought by law enforcement. If the youth is at the JAC, they're usually brought by our staff. And then in detention, if they are in detention, detention is helping transport. There's lots of conversations between all of us, though, when there becomes a barrier for either program.
Okay. Well, in just the thought process is if we do move in the civil citation realm, to being able to divert directly out of there on the domestic violence case, you know, that could go a long way for that law enforcement in Plant City or or wherever, if they're at the jack and they could be transported to that respite bed from the jack, that, I think we would have fewer missed opportunities if that's an option.
Yes, so the staff at the jack typically, so if we are unable to pick up within that 6-hour time frame, we've had great relationships with holding those youth a little bit longer so we can get through things like shift change or bringing in an additional staff to transport. Kelly's team is tremendous at additionally supporting us if we just have no extra people to pick up from detention or the jack. So there's definitely ways to make that successful.
Thank you very much. Any old business? Any new business? Okay, we are now going to have our presentation from Career Source of Tampa Bay. Today we have Dr. Byron Clayton and our very own Conchita Canty-Jones, who will be talking today. And you can talk up at the podium, and we'll go ahead and load up the PowerPoint.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning again. I am very excited today about this presentation to allow, in my opinion, one of the best agencies in Hillsborough County, Career Source, Tampa Bay. But before we get started, I really wanted to just highlight some things from my experience, just to sort of give you some content. Working with Hillsborough County for about 32 years, ranging from my humble beginnings in clerical and then ending my career as an administrator. But through my experience, had a couple of things that I'm looking at Chrissy because I want her to cover her ears because she no longer, she did not personally have to experience this, but just wanted to give you the idea that what lit my fire and had the passion that I have today working with our DJJ population. Several years ago, I actually was a data processing clerk, had a young man to walk into the office. And the parent was very excited to enroll the youth, actually coming from DJJ space. And as I was sitting there getting ready to enroll the young person, the administrator called me in the back and basically told me not to enroll the young person. And at the time, being a young employee, it really bothered me because I didn't understand why that young man didn't have the same opportunity. So that was the beginning of the fire being lit. And I felt like something needed to be done. Of course, came along our favorite person, Christy, had put some things in place that those things are, I believe, is no longer happening. One of my last experience that I had, I was an administrator, and there was a young man that was enrolled in our GED program, and I built a relationship with this young man. So every day he would come in, I made a point to make sure that he checked in with me. So every morning, good morning, Ms. Jones, how you doing? You know, good morning. He goes into his class. So the young man warned me. He says, listen, I'm on probation. My probation officer would come by and see me, you know, basically saying, you know, and I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a good word. Every day I see you, you're doing what you need to do. I proceeded to give that young man resources and continue to connect with him. And he shared with me that he was living with his grandparent and how he wanted to make his grandparent proud. So, of course, that touched my heart. So one day, police officer come in, not having the knowledge I have today, I assumed that it was the young man's probation officer. So I'm like, yes, this is great. So the police officer walks in, I share my name, my experience, telling him how the young man entered into the school every day on time, met with the grandmother. So the officer asked me to have the young man come out of the classroom. And I was just so excited about this. So I told the young man, your probation officer is here. You know, we're going to share with him all of these wonderful things that you have been doing for the last month or so. So as we sat there and to proceed with this interview, The person who I assumed that was a probation officer really was an officer, and he was there to arrest the young man. So on the campus, this young man was arrested in front of me, and it was devastating. We had the opportunity to call his grandmother. The grandmother was very upset, of course. I was very upset because I felt like a space of education, why are we arresting young people? So that at that point lit the fire again. Once again, like I must say, those things are not happening anymore, but it gave me the passion that I have today. So I made up in my mind that every space that I'm in, I'm going to ask the question, you know, I heard this saying in the community, how are the children? I asked the question of how our DJJ population is doing, as well as our at-risk population. So my passion as I drive and was in my career for 32 years, I work passionately with this population. Now, being a director of student engagement for Career Source, I am really excited that we have programs to support our young people. So today, we're going to share with you those opportunities, but I wanted you to get the feel of the passion and the work that we're doing. I also would like for you to, any advice or any ideas that you may have in order for us to do something creative. We have wonderful staff that are behind me, that we are here and we're ready to work. So let's start the PowerPoint, please. Next slide. Or can I handle it? Can I push? Oh. Push what? Okay, got it. So today, we're going to provide you, of course, we always want to start off with our mission and vision of Career Source Tampa Bay. We're going to provide you an overview of services per career stage, an overview of specific workshops for youth and DJJ population, overview of services of job seekers for DJJ population, overview of employer services of DJJ, overview of programs, highlights of Career Source Tampa Bay of services, and how we serve the unique program, and of course, questions and answers. So our mission statement, as you all can see, the most important thing that I would like to highlight is that we connect employers to qualified and skilled talent in Hillsborough County residents. Now, the vision is the foundation for me as being an employee of Career Source, connecting talent with opportunity. We are driven to do that, as well as our DJJ population that you will hear today. Oh, I need the back. I'm sorry. So at this point, we have our Senior Vice President and Chief Partnership Sector, Dr. Clayton, that will provide some additional support that we provide for our youth. Dr. Clayton.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I can attest to Conchita's passion. I was smiling a little bit back here because when I first started to work with her, honestly, the DJJ population wasn't on my radar. So it took about 2 months. Now it's a priority. So she really, instilled that in me, talked to me about some of the urgency, some of the need, and so now it's a priority. And that's some of what we'll talk to you about today. So I'm going to start out by, I just want to give you a 30,000-foot overview. I want to make a couple of points about Career Source. First of all, we actually help people regardless of the stage they're in. We do a lot of things, and I'm sure you've heard that about Career Source, but think about it in terms of career stage. Whether you're starting out your career as a youth, whether you're advancing your career, or your career got interrupted, right? You were laid off or you relocated and you just need to continue. Or you're an older person who says, this isn't working. I want to reinvent myself. We have services that can help you. And speaking about youth, that first column under starting your career, obviously youth are starting out their careers. This goes to show that regardless of what you're looking for, we can probably help you. So for instance, for youth, career exploration is imperative. You know, there's so many opportunities out there right now, but first you have to figure out, well, what fits what, you know, what I like, you know, what I'm good at. So career exploration is really important. We do that. We also help kids connect with earn and learn programs, which I personally think are, you know, they're like the holy grail. You get paid to learn. And we have everything from really short-term programs that are 8 weeks long, all the way to connecting students and youth to apprenticeships that can be 4 or 5 years long. We also have tuition assistance. Now, some of these things, of course, you need to be eligible for these things, right? But that's our job. We'll figure that out. So tuition assistance is one of those things, and we can connect, not only help with tuition, but we can connect youth with over 300 different programs for training. And these are programs that have been approved by us. And then finally, job readiness and job search. So if you're just looking to, you know, I just want a job, right? We can help you find that job. And more importantly, we can help you get better at, if it's your resume that you need to spruce up, whether you need to learn more about interviewing, we can help you with that. And then help you find that job. So just keep that in mind, because as we've been talking to Secretary Hall and the staff about what we can specifically do for the DJJ, one of the things that came up was, of course we want to help the youth, but if you help the parent, you help the child. So everything we do here not only helps the youth, but it can help their parents. So one of the newer things that we're doing, and this is really the brainchild of myself and Conchita, are in-class workshops. And these are very specific workshops that we take on the road, and we do these in the classroom. So that we don't require youth to come to us, we go to them. And these were specifically developed for the Hillsborough County public school system. So there were 3 of them there, and I'll talk about each of them. But first, I want to kind of tell you the common denominator between all 3 workshops. And what it is that we really want you to take control of their career success, right? A lot of times, you know, kids just don't think they're in control. So we start talking to them in each of these workshops about taking control of their success. And there are 3 elements that we repeat for each of the workshops: awareness, attitude, and action. So first of all, it's being aware of all the opportunities and resources that are around, because there are lots of them. These kids have more opportunities and more resources than I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. Be aware of those, of what those are and how to access those things. Second thing, have the right attitude. Have a positive attitude, and most importantly, have a growth mindset. You can do anything you want to do if you commit to it. So we make sure and talk to them about that. It doesn't help, you know, it's great to be aware, but if you don't have the right attitude, it's no good. And then the third thing, it's about taking action, right? Don't just dream about it, don't just talk about it, take action. And in each of our workshops, at the end of the workshop, we give them an opportunity to take action. Small steps, but it's still saying, okay, if you're serious, take some action. And again, we repeat that in each of the workshops that I'll talk about here. All right, first workshop is called a Career Journey Workshop. We piloted this last year with the Hillsborough County School System. It went very, very well, very successful. So we're going to expand to the other high schools this year. And just in a nutshell, what it is, we talk about 2 things. We talk about career planning and how important it is, which in most cases, we're just reinforcing what they already know, right? But we give them some options. We talk about the different options they have, et cetera. Most importantly, we get into talking about the career journey. And you can see by the slide, the career plan is always great, right? Sun shining, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make $1 million, right? And I'm going to be rich and famous. That's what everybody thinks. That's not reality, right? The career journey, and I'm sure each of us can talk about our career journeys, and it's not all sunshine and roses. We talk to them about that. Here's what it's really going to be. So don't get freaked out. You know, like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? don't be surprised when life punches you in the face. And here's how you handle that, right? All right, you target your next milestone, you figure out how to get there, and you figure out how to get around those barriers, right? And you repeat that over and over and over again. Those are the things that we talk about. In essence, what we're saying is if you want to predict your future, create it. That's how you do it. The next workshop is a living wage workshop. That one, we're still working on that, but we're going to pilot that this year, again in the high schools. And this is all about making kids aware of the living wage, what it is, right? Because nearly half of the households in Florida live check to check, which means they're under that living wage. And I see people shaking their heads up and down. We need to make these kids aware of that, right? And if you're Hispanic and black, it's more than 50%. If you're under 25, it's almost 3/4 of the population under 25. If you're a single mother, 80% below the living wage. So these are striking statistics. We want them to be aware so that, as I say here, strive to thrive, right? Make sure you're not targeting a career path that's under that living wage. You don't want to do that. Let's make you aware of what those things are. And then the third workshop is about job quality. And here, most people, not just kids, but most people, when they look for a new job, they're thinking about money, right? And that's fine. Pay and benefits are very important, but there are other things you need to be aware of, and we make these kids aware of these other things. So, for instance, career training and advancement is, in many cases, more important than the pay. You know, I myself took a big pay cut because I could go back to school. Because in the career I was in, I was on the road all the time. I went back to school, got my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree with that same company, and they paid for all of it, right? So, best decision ever made. So sometimes career training and advancement is more important. Other times, you know, maybe you're making a lot of money, and that's great, but you hate your job. Your boss is a jerk, it's too much stress, so what do? You quit. So we try to teach these kids, learn about this stuff before you take that job so that you make sure that this next job is your best job. And most importantly for this, and I want to make sure I point this out, we just don't say, hey, here's what job quality is. We give them tools so that they understand how to find out about the quality of a job. So things like, where do you go online to find out about a job? In an interview, how do you interview the interviewer, right? When do you ask what questions? Those are really important because if you ask the right questions and at the right time, you can find out just about everything you want to know about that job, so you're not surprised when you take it. All right, so I'm going to introduce, and I think we're taking questions afterwards. I'm going to introduce Indira Chambers. She's going to come up and talk to you a little bit more about some programs and services, specific programs and services that we offer.
Good morning. So as we thought of how to present this information to you guys this morning, instead of doing it department by department, we decided to separate it into job seeker services and employer services, because employer services also serve the job seeker, you know? So one of the services that we provide our job seekers is employability skills workshops. And for this particular population, the DJJ population, justice-involved youth, somebody with a history of criminal activity, one of the workshops that we provide is called Breaking Barriers. And I want to make special mention about that one because this is one that allows the job seeker to reimagine themselves and not define themselves by their criminal history or a record that they have. So because, you know, when you are applying for a position, you are trying to put your best foot forward so that the employer can seriously consider you for the position that they have open. And if the first thing that they see is that you have a criminal history that might, preclude you from being considered seriously. So that one in particular is one that we recommend for job seekers that have some blemish in their background. Now, before I go any further, I forgot to mention that with respect to the juvenile job seekers, with us, we use the Department of Labor definition of what youth is, and that is anyone between the age of 16 and 24. All right, so another service that we provide is recruiter services. So once you have gone through the employability skills workshops and you are now what we call job ready, so you have your resume completed, you've gone through maybe some workshops to help you to interview, because there's a different way for you to interview if you are interviewing one-on-one or if you are doing a panel interview. And can you imagine someone going to an interview for the first time and they're anticipating one person and then they go in there, or it's a virtual interview and then there's like 5 people that come on the screen, eh? So we prepare our job seekers for all the different iterations of the interviewing process. So the recruiters will, assist with that part. With the recruiting services, we have relationships with employers that we call background-friendly employers. So these are employers that have given us their commitment that they will consider equally someone who has a background, just as they would someone who does not. Of course, there are certain restrictions, but we do have employers who list themselves as background-friendly. We also have a program called the Federal Bonding Program. Not sure if you guys are aware of what this is, but it is a program that employers can receive fidelity bonds free of charge as an incentive to hire what we call hard-to-place job applicants. And those are the applicants that, have blemishes to their record ordinarily or at risk. So another program that we have is called Ticket to Work. This particular program services individuals between the ages of 18 and 64. The requirement is that you currently receive SSI or SSDI. And someone with a background would not be automatically eliminated just because they receive that. One of the departments that we have is, we have a department that serves veterans. So any veteran that walks into our building has priority of service. So they identify as a veteran, and then we do an eligibility form to see whether or not they have a significant barrier to employment, which is the precursor to us providing services at Career Source for them. One of the significant barriers to employment is having a criminal record. So, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but for you to be considered a veteran, you have to have served at least 1 day. So, we would anticipate that there would be veterans that come in under the age of 24. So for us, and this particular board today would still be considered youth. So while CSTB does not offer a special service to justice-involved veterans, all veterans are treated the same way. And again, like I said, one of the eligibility requirements is that you have a significant barrier to employment and criminal record suffices. So now we go on to WIOA, so the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Now we do provide services to adults and youth, but we are going to be talking today mostly about the youth-specific programs. There is some overlap though, because remember, the definition of youth for us is 16 to 24, but you can qualify for adult programs over, within that, it overlaps. So WIOA was signed into law in 2014 after a 16-year hiatus of legislative reform for the public workforce system. Huge, eh? 16 years before we made any changes. And recently, Career Source was awarded a $3.1 million grant to provide WIOA services to veterans. And that That director is here today, so if you have any specific questions about that program, she is here to answer those questions, as is the youth director. So we have our youth programs. Again, between the ages of 16 and 24 is what we define youth as. So we have two different tracks. We have OSY and ISY, so it's out-of-school youth and in-school youth. The services that we provide: career exploration, employability skills training, career coaching and guidance, training assistance, limited support services, and work-based learning programs. Now, Dr. Clayton has gone over some of these, so there is some overlap between what he has talked about and what I've talked about, or what I am talking about. So I'm gonna try not to be redundant. This particular screen is, makes my heart flutter, because the Tampa Bay hires and Tampa Bay summer hires, as Ms. Conchita said, you know, she has a fire lit with Department of Juvenile Justice. I have a fire lit with youth programs. I love, love, love the youth. They are our future. So Tampa Bay summer hires is a program that promotes career pathways, increased attainment of recognized credentials, and post-secondary credentials. It provides support to a diverse population of youth. And again, significant barriers to employment is one of the things that we are looking for when we are serving our youth. The Tampa Bay summer hires is the iteration of our summer hires, the iteration of our Tampa Bay hires that happens in the summer. And I want to say it's a big deal, because we serve so many of our Tampa youth in this summer program. This year was especially amazing to me because we have 3 tracks. There is PWE, career exploration, and leadership. And in the leadership, we had this full-fledged pitch competition that the youth, actually, the winning group won $1,800, which was supported by the most illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Tampa Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I'm especially proud of that because the sorority is a social action sorority. So for them to align with Career Source and the CDC of Tampa to provide this to our youth was amazing to me, warmed my heart. So the eligibility criteria for out-of-school and in-school youth, again, 16 to 24. I keep saying that because, you know, sometimes we get away from what youth are and what adults are, and we do have some overlap. So barriers to employment: high school dropout, justice-involved youth, homeless or runaway, pregnant or parenting, foster youth, or someone with a disability. Another eligibility criteria is low income. So what is low income? Low income for us is that the family is receiving cash assistance or food stamps. The child receives free or reduced lunch at the high school level. There is a basic skills deficiency. The youth is an English learner, so English is the second language. And or the youth resides in a high poverty area. So that concludes Tampa Bay hires and Tampa Bay summer hires. In our regular programs department, we have a program that we call ACE for short, and it is the Apprenticeship to Career Empowerment Program. That program provides Hillsborough County young adults ages 18 to 29. So here is a different age group. Before we were serving in Tampa Bay summer hires 16 to 24. With ACE, it's 18 to 29. So we connect them to exciting careers, careers that are up and coming, careers that after they finish their training, we can assist them with getting employment in. So the way that this program is set up, the young adults receive 2 days of occupational skills training through a local training provider or apprenticeship program, and 3 days of work site or hands-on training with a local employer. similar to Tampa Bay summer hires, which I forgot to mention, over the summer, we pay our youth $15 an hour, which is, you know, a few dollars above the minimum wage. That is very appealing to our youth. So we get that to assist us with enrollment. With ACE, we pay the youth or young adults $15 an hour as well. So some of the programs that we are doing with ACE, digital marketing is an 8-week program. Cybersecurity is a 10-week program. We have front-end web development. Are we still doing that, Salima? Front-end web development, a 10-week program. Aircraft electronics technician, CNC, accredited claims adjuster, green construction, and phlebotomy. Here's the thing, if you look at those career pathways, those are not the, and I'm gonna use a colloquial term, a regular schmegular job. You know, so we are trying to attract our youth to getting into career pathways that are not like, they're not gonna end soon. Digital marketing is up and coming. Phlebotomy, we always have opportunities in the medical services. Accredited claims adjuster, I mean, we live in Florida, you know? So we got hurricanes. And, you know, working in that industry is, you know, you'll always be able to find a job, eh? So that concludes the job seeker services. So now we move on to employer services. Employer services are provided by our business services unit. And how does it work? So we have business development managers that develop relationships with businesses, and in order for businesses to post their positions on our site, which is called Employ Florida, they have to register with Employ Florida. The business services unit will help these businesses to maybe write their job descriptions and whatnot, because there are certain criterion that have to be there. For example, they have to be able to list what they're paying. You can't post a job with us if the job seeker doesn't know what the job is gonna pay. There are businesses who register with us that are background friendly, and they can indicate that in their job description. I have on the screen a little snippet of how that looks. So if you look down at the bottom, I've highlighted it. There is something that we call a second chance opportunity. And for this particular example that I have there, that employer said they are not participating in that. So that means they are not technically background friendly. So examples of considerations that can be made: some employers review their background applicants by case basis. Others will say, we're not going to hire anybody if they have any kind of felony. They may consider misdemeanors, but not felonies. They may say that we are an employer that this particular position does not require a background check to be done. So that means we would then encourage someone with a background to apply for that job if they're qualified. Another, you know, consideration might be that the employer says, hey, we're not going to consider anybody who has committed theft, you know, any kind of background with drugs or DUIs, anything, child abuse or abuse-related domestic violence or anything like that. So there are different ways that we consider, or that employers will consider applicants that have background issues. So other related services that the business services unit does is it works with businesses and it organizes on-site job fairs. And when we do the job fairs at Career Source, sometimes we do it like at our outlying offices, but more than often we do it at the North Florida, which is our biggest office, eh? And we bring in employers, and oftentimes those employers will hire job seekers on the spot. And we have our resource room there. So anybody who comes to our job fairs at the centers, let's say they don't have their resume printed, they can go into the resource center and print it. If they don't have a registration for Employ Florida, the resource room is right there. So the continuity of service that we provide is like second to none, I would want to say. We also collaborate with community organizations such as A. Brown Ministries, and we have a presence at community job fairs in Hillsborough County with any community partners that host their job fairs. So I would like to highlight this upcoming background-friendly job fair, which is a collaboration between CareerSource Tampa Bay and A. Brown Ministries. And that is coming up on September the 28th, and it will run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it is at Cyrus Green Park in the recreation room. So if you know of any job seeker that has a background, please tell them about this job fair and encourage them, if they don't have their resume together and whatnot, that they can come to CareerSource Tampa Bay at any of our locations. We have an office in Ruskin, an office in Plant City, an office in the Brandon area off of Martin Luther King, and we have our office on Bushen, Florida, which is our main office, and they can come. We'll help them do their resume. We will prime them up for interviews and get them job ready. And that concludes my piece of the presentation. If there are any questions from the board, we have members of our staff here. We have the youth director, Leandra Foster, programs director, Salima Bennett. We have Dr. Clayton, Miss Conchita, and we have Jesse, who is here from Business Services. So any questions? Yes, sir.
Is there a central contact to make referrals to the correct programs within CareerSource? How do we make a referral?
A referral for employability skills workshops?
For services.
For services.
Yeah.
So if a job seeker would like services from CareerSource Tampa Bay, they can go to any of our offices, and whoever is at the front desk will have a conversation with them and be able to direct them to the appropriate department. However, there are times when a job seeker will need services from multiple departments, and there at the front desk, that connection can also be made.
How can an agency make a referral and follow up? Because a lot of times we're accountable to judiciary.
Yes, sir.
And when we say we made a referral, first of all, we need to be able to know that we did make a referral. I can't just send a client to you.
Absolutely.
And then we have to follow through as well. So how do we do that?
Absolutely. Dr. Clayton?
Yeah, so we actually have, we have community partners that we work with. And one of the tools that we have just for that is, it's a platform called Unite Us. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but it's an electronic platform. And you make referrals over the platform, and that way it captures that information. And then when we take that referral, we put case notes in the system. So if you made the referral, you can actually see what happened with that referral. So that is the formal way of doing it. And then there's always just contact somebody, right? Just contact me. We have contact information coming up. Contact anybody. You have Conchita here, and then we'll make sure you get to the right person.
Well, I hate to try to contact someone, just say to go over there and go too low. I also don't want to go directly to you, Dr. Clayton. Do you have is there a place a social worker is there a central person that we could call, a phone number? Email address, that type of thing. And I can ask afterwards. I just, I want to be able to connect people to these wonderful services.
So our director of youth says usually it is the department coordinators, but we do have on site a one-stop operator who is really the connector between the community and the services that we provide at CareerSource. And that one-stop operator can assist with that organization being listed on our partner portal, the Unite Us. And his name is Paul Casebolt. And I would be more than happy to provide Ms. Conchita with with his contact information, that maybe we can move forward that way.
Thank you.
Rocky, I understand your question. And matter of fact, is actually an idea. Because typically, like you said, in the agency realm, that we have a referral system. If you're speaking with a young person, you write the refer, and then we handle it from there. And then if you need to do a follow-up, then you have that accountability. So I completely understand what you're saying. Under CareerSource, there's so many departments that the referral system can run through. But now you have given us an idea of maybe something that we could, because we have a system in place, but not exactly how you're asking, because I truly understand what you're asking. And Dr. Clayton just mentioned that possibly I can be that contact person for the DJJ process, and then use the Unite Us system.
I think you just gave Conchita another job. But yeah, actually, as you were speaking about it, if you're a partner, we got you covered. But if you're not a partner, it's typically who you know. So maybe we should have somebody specified as the DJJ contact, regardless if you're a partner or not. And I think we just had a volunteer.
That's awesome, and I'm sorry to put more on your plate, but definitely.
I value it and don't mind being that person. So these types of meetings, as I said earlier, allow us to have ideas of what can we do to better serve the DJJ population. So I'm here to support, of course.
Thank you. Mr. Parkinson?
A couple of comments. First of all, thank you all for your presentation. In the community, sometimes the programs that we offer change and get modified over the years, so it was great to see kind of a tune-up of where you guys are. The other issue is there's been some partnerships between the Board of County Commissioners and CareerSource in recent years. The ACES program is a very good example of that, where we had community stakeholders come and say, we're getting jobs, but they're not the jobs that lead to certifications and advancements and better jobs down the road. And that's where you guys worked with the Board of County Commissioners to come up with the ACES program to bring those industry standard certifications that, and you mentioned a few, including like phlebotomy. Those typically lead to people going on and expanding their education and becoming an LPN down the road, or an RN, or maybe a doctor down the road. So my question is we've got 3 years of data now on ACES, or close to 3 years. How is ACES doing, one? And two, are you seeing what we hoped we'd see, is that those ACES participants are expanding their knowledge base and their earning potential down the road?
Hi, thank you for your question. So yeah, like you said, we just launched the phlebotomy career track this program year. They're actually wrapping up their last couple of weeks with their paid work experience. So we will be very interested to see if they get hired on with the hospital. They did their PWE. But the initial years of ACE, we had almost a 75% placement rate. So that was a really great thing to see. Now, when we do our follow-ups with them, we have seen some job hopping, but that is just kind of the climate that we've been in now. So we have seen wages entered employment rate about $14.75, and now we're seeing somewhere around the $16 mark. So for a 2-year time frame, that's not a horrible increase when it comes to young adults who didn't have, any career laddering position, to now someone who receives credentials and a paid work experience.
And I don't see job hopping as a negative. Education credentials give people opportunities that they wouldn't have before, especially in this market.
Right.
The next issue I had is it's great to see, again, that you guys are continuing to partner with other programs that the Board of County Commissioners has helped get off the ground, A. Brown Ministries specifically. The board helped them get off the ground, gosh, probably 6, 7 years ago now. And that program, although we no longer fund it, it has expanded and enhanced over the last few years, and now is significantly funded by the Florida Department of Corrections to do what they do, and to see that you guys are partnering with them as they kind of evolve. And their Ready for Work program is recently rebranded as Inspire, with capital H at the end, higher. But they're doing some wonderful work too, you know, and they typically serve 18 and above. But I think they do a good job, especially with transitional youth, knowing that they're going to reach age 18 and they might have some adult charges, making sure that they get into services.
For sure, and Career Source Tampa Bay will be announcing a partnership with the Brown Ministry where we're looking to do a reentry program later on in October.
Right, and again, I know it's premature, but the Board of County Commissioners also, because of the success of ACES, has funded in partnership down the road. The city also offered up some money, the city of Tampa, to serve adult target populations with an ACES-like program. And the Public Safety Coordinating Council, which is another group like this that works on the adult system, has actually asked your VP of Policy and Programs, April
Torgianti.
Yes, to come and do a presentation on that new program at their November 17th meeting. So we're very excited to see what you guys come up with.
Great.
You know, you bring up a very good point, and that is all the interconnections that are happening between these different programs. To give you an example, I was just at A. Brown Ministries, like I talked about the job quality workshop. I just did a mini workshop for their Inspire cohort that's going through right now. And so the more of these connections we make, it makes us all stronger. It gives us that foundation that there's really no wrong door, right? And so, yeah, so thanks for saying that. And by the way, we just approved our board just approved the agreement for a 4th year of ACE, so it just has to go to the county. So there will be a 4th year. One more thing I'll mention is that, also I forgot to mention, is that those workshops that I talked about, the in-class workshops, we're actually working with Secretary Hall and his staff right now to see how do we tailor that to fit the DJJ population. It's still early, but we've got some great ideas, and I think you're really going to like them. We'll keep you in the loop on that.
And we appreciate that. You know, one of the things the board and county administration like to see is if the county does provide seed money, are those organizations running with it and bringing added value through other funding sources? And you guys are certainly doing that.
And one thing good about what CareerSource does is we're required to measure everything. So we measure, just like Salima came up and she had all those figures off the top of her head, we have to measure everything. And we can follow people throughout their careers. So even though we may touch a youth, right, once we get them in Employ Florida, we have the means to see what happens to them over time. And this whole idea of, you know, as your career progresses, there may be a time that you may want to come back to us for some help. We're here for you, and we can help you in that next stage. And then we can kind of track that process and see our effectiveness over the long term.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation. I didn't see anyone
Chair.
signed up for public comment. Dr. Dames.
Mr. Chair, just a quick little funny. I think we should probably expand that summer program, summer employment program, to the Divine Nine, and not just DST.
All right. All right. Do we have any public comment? I didn't see anyone signed up. Any public comment? Okay. We'll move on to announcements. First announcement, the executive board meeting, if you're going to that next month, please note it is not in the judicial conference room of the Edgecombe Courthouse. It's still in the Edgecombe Courthouse. When you go up to the escalator or when you go up to the second floor, there's a snack bar all the way to the left. And if you go to the snack bar, immediately to the right of the snack bar, you'll see a hallway. There's candy machines there, probably on both sides, so you can't miss it. Follow the candy machines through the hallway, and It's going to be in room 202. It's a large meeting room. Court admin has something else scheduled, and they gave us a lot of advance notice. So please make sure you note that and go there. And second of all, ACTS sent out a notice, and if you recall, Chris Revere, their Chief Operations Officer, was here during our last meeting talking about the JARF, which is the Juvenile Addictions Receiving Facility relocation. Looks like they now have a date. It's September 12th, 2023, and it's moving to 3107 North 50th Street, Suite A. So just take note of that. Other announcements? Davia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to share that we'll be celebrating our girls and their success in our annual Journey to Success Luncheon for PACE. It'll be on October 26th at the Brian Glazer Family JCC. Our honoree for this year is Chief Barbara Tripp. She is an East Tampa native, an inspiration for our girls, and the first female fire chief in Hillsborough County. Please reach out to me if you want to learn more, or you can purchase tickets at paycenter.org. Thank you.
All right, I got my ticket, and I'm looking forward to it. Any other announcements? Yes.
Yes, Rocky, thanks. Character GPS will have their annual leadership luncheon that we invite everyone to come see the latest in what we're doing to try to help kids get on track before they get into trouble. And so it's going to be on Wednesday, November 28th at the Regency Oaks new event center. So state-of-the-art place. We're really excited to be there. So again, let us know. We have limited seating, so please let me know as soon as possible, and we'll get you a seat at the luncheon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Any other announcements? All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 11:31.